morning, folks. The title of today's video is, and a tribute to the town of Mulgrave, its founders, the pioneers, the men and women, the families that built the town up, and its people today. It's happy 100th anniversary of the incorporation of the town of Mulgrave. It was incorporated in 1923, in the roaring 20s, and here we are in 2023. 100 years passes by quick when you're busy, and it's the 100th anniversary of the founding of the town. At one time, I didn't think that town would exist or should be a town, but I've changed my mind on that for a number of very solid reasons, and I'm quite confident that Mulgrave will be around in the town in 20 years, and 30 years, and 40 years, and so on. So the title of today's video is Happy 100th Anniversary Mulgrave, town of Mulgrave, and I'm confident the town will survive and be around prospering for many decades to come. Now, Mulgrave originally started before, it was incorporated as a town in 1923, but the place existed for really 200 years. It was almost a bicentennial, too. It started in the early 1800s. It was known as McNear's Cove, MC, Irish, McNear's Cove. Now, I'm not mistaken, in front of the fish plant there, Logie Street, I think that's called McNear's Cove. So McNear's Cove was later named Port Mulgrave. Port Mulgrave. It was a shipping area. All these big ships that come out, sailing ships, good-sized wooden vessels. They wouldn't be as big as ships now, but good, not insubstantial. There was no railroad yet. There was no highway system. They'd go to Guysborough, Canso, Mulgrave, sail on to Port Hood, and so on. Okay, so anyway, Mulgrave, in his early days, had Joe Howe. A lot of people don't know that. Joe Howe Drive is the statue of Joe Howe. Before the railroad was here, Joe Howe stayed probably in about railroad comes around about 1880. So about 1860s, 1870s, Joe Howe stayed up behind the post office at what's known as the Victory Inn. Victory Inn. So Joe Howe, a father of Confederation, a very wonderful gentleman, stayed in your town of Mulgrave, when it was then known as Port Mulgrave. So originally started as McNear's Cove, and bear with me, I have a lot of grounds to cover here. It's hard to do justice to this amount of history and people to acknowledge in such a short time. So this is going to be a longer video than normal, folks. They take and McNear's Cove becomes Port Mulgrave, and later it becomes Mulgrave as we know it today. And is a busy place as a port. And we think of the people that have been so influential in Mulgrave to building town. The French, there's Benoits, and there's Bushies and Breens. One of them just passed on a year or so ago. Great guy, was the fire chief, and so on. So all those French families, the beloved Newfoundlanders. Think of the Skinners and the Keepings and the Shepherds, and there's just a whole infinite number of people come to Mulgrave from Newfoundland. They take and Krantz, lots of other fine folks. Now they take and the black people, the English post-World War II. You think of Albert Cole and Sylvia. You think of the Ayres. You think of the Moores. The Wilbrahams had Acadia fisheries. Just a tremendous number. Okay. Now, we take and Mulgrave one time had stores lying in the main street. People used to come across the ferry boat, car ferry, from Port Hawkesbury. There was 2 drugstores in Mulgrave one time. Legitimate drugs. 2 drugstores that dispensed doctors' prescriptions. And they come over, there was a sweet shop. There was Mr. Mansour. Mr. Mansour is Father Ayman Mansour. I think Hamoud's had a store there. And there was Kawadjas. There was Reed's 5 and 10, and so on. Now, attitude has a lot to do with how we do in life. You know, Mulgrave boomed. They had the Har ferry go over from Wharf in Mulgrave over to Port Hawkesbury, and at a Scotia. That's we get Scotia Days every year. Scotia Days was the Scotia ferry, went from Port Hawkesbury, from Mulgrave over to Point Tupper. The train was a freight boat from Newfoundland. They had the fish plant. Mulgrave never suffered from the Great Depression because they had a fish plant, railroad, the port, pre-Kansas Causeway. It was a busy town. 1,800 people at its peak. And sometime, like in life, we get too proud and we have a fall. We're just back in church this morning. And it's true Christianity. All human beings suffer from pride, the fall, the rebuilding. And there was Gail Fitzpatrick, was a wonderful lady. Nobody could work with her one in a shop so well, but she was a hard worker. Not only a hard worker, she was a very, very able dealer and smart. Very, very smart. She could cook multiple stuff, cinnamon rolls, muffins, cookies, hair bread rising, making pies. She was an able dealer, a very hard worker and very smart lady. Her father was a Frigier's maiden name. Used to come over with Martel, who's one of his sons went on to become a doctor, and they went over to sell fish from Arishat because the people in Mulgrave were railroad workers, sea captains and so on. It was money, could buy fish. And sometime getting a little rough going over. French guys coming up, selling them mackerel or whatever the fish species was at the time of year, maybe smelts in the winter or eels in the winter too or whatever. But Mulgrave never suffered the Depression, a Great Depression, a boom because of transportation is necessary in railroad and so on, be it ship or ferry or train, freight boats. It was busy. And the fish plant, the Wilbrahams, we think of Captain Cyril Rose, came from Newfoundland. He could do a video on him alone. Okay, he was a fantastic guy. They had many priests in Mulgrave, very good. Somebody told me one time that Father Patton supposedly said from an altar, with the attitude of some of you people in this town, grass will grow in your railroad tracks before industry will come to town. He got frustrated with some of the people, not all, but some of them. And grass did grow in the railroad before they tore up the railroad. Mind you, CN has since bought the rail line back here, and some very good things are going to happen in the coming next number of years here. And a spin-off, that's one of the main reasons I'm very confident Mulgrave will thrive as a town. I can remember, Leonard O'Neill was mayor, great guy, fantastic gentleman. Without him, we wouldn't have the pulp mill, we wouldn't have anything here, literally. Couldn't repeat that. Wasn't for late Leonard O'Neill, wouldn't have had the pulp mill, which became a paper mill. It's still a coated paper mill. And we wouldn't have anything here. Simple as that. We owe a debt of gratitude to that gentleman in heaven with his wonderful wife, Eva. And then his brother, Eugene and Mary. Mary come out to shop in a store, fruit stand ahead in Auld, Cove, and he come in office talking. I always love to see him come in. He sit in the wooden crate, apple crate in front of my desk, and we talk. Said, Mulgrave shouldn't be in town anymore. Taxes are sky high. Well, he said, John, this Saturday afternoon, we have everything we need to be a town except industry. But since he told me that's 30 years ago, Ocean Nutrition's come to town. Okay. DSM now. Okay, that came to employs a lot of people. The school board bus garage, repair garage has come to town. The Feltmate Brothers, East Coast Hydraulics on the wharf. Mulgrave Machine was already there, and they've expanded in the lovely building they acquired. So a lot of jobs in Mulgrave. Martin Marietta's expanded. Martin Marietta is numerous people. The Bushy Boys, very capable cats. Donald and his brothers and so on. A very smart sister in that family too. And they take Todd Shepard, Todd's uncle, Basil Coffee. I can go on. And we've kept a lot of people in the area because of Martin Marietta. Anyway, I want to wish all you people, I've gone on longer than normal, there's one little more thing I want to put on. Some wonderful priest was Father Alec the Devil, they called him. And he was a wonderful priest. And a certain prominent family in town, he phoned up and said, haven't seen you in church lately. And let me go like this on the phone. Haven't seen you in church lately. No, Father, I had a lump removed. It was in a hospital. In pregnant pause. I had a lump removed. And Father came right back on the phone. He said, well, get that lump in here and have it baptized. And that's a true story. And during his tenure in Mulgrave, the church burnt down, the wooden church. And there was the Mara family that lost their home. And he said that family will have a home again before we start spending any money on lumber and brick to build a new church. He was there. I don't know why I call him Father Alec Devil. It was jealousy. He was a wonderful man. I was at a wake one time in Mulgrave, and one of the guys that remembered him as the early parishioner, he used to sing in the church, the choir. He was a carpenter by trade. He said he was up in his 70s, up on the roof with the safety harness, looking at how the shingles were on the roof of the church. He was a very capable cat, and the beautiful St. Lawrence Church of Mulgrave was built under the tutelage of Father Alec the Devil. He was a very capable cat. You have a very capable cat now in Father Alan McPhee as well, I might add. And they've had remember Reverend Sid Hales in the United Church, and they had a number of very good ministers over the years and ministresses in the Anglican Church. So it used to be a Presbyterian church in the town. So Mulgrave, the town looks good. They don't have all the stores. You go through Mulgrave, you go up Murray Street, Medical Center building, Fire Hall, Library. The town looks good. There's nice big trees in it. Wallace Street, Main Street, Terry Fox Lane. You go to, and one other street I got to mention is Cecil Street. There's this little short street coming up from the former school, going up the hill there, and Cecil Street. Cecil Street's named after Joe Cecil. He was an Italian guy that had the first commercial fish plant in Mulgrave. This is before Acadia Fisheries. My father worked at Acadia Fisheries. Peter worked there, Geraldine, Gertie, Bobby, Rita. It's just, there's not a house around these areas, Harbushy, Trackety, that didn't have somebody in the family working railroad, and a couple of them worked at the Mulgrave fish plant, Acadia Fisheries. With that, I'm going to give the last word to Mr. Mansour that famously said, look to the future. So there's many good people in Mulgrave that have done so much for Mulgrave over the years. I think of the late Leonard MacDonald, the MacDonald family. His wife Anne wasn't afraid to try anything and do something. She was a capable cat in her own right. I did a video on her a little over a year ago. And so late Mayor Leonard MacDonald, we pay homage to him this morning. And O'Neill's, and I can go on. All these families that take and did so much to build a town and a community, and there's better days ahead. There's better days ahead. Mulgrave will survive as a town. I think, like all towns, they're probably overstaffed. Somebody down the shore told me one day, Alfred Hattie ran it. There's a Hattie Street in Mulgrave named after his ancestors. He was a remarkable man. And he had one good God-given arm, and one he had something, and he was a very he used to come in as a customer. He's long since gone, but Alfred Hattie was the town clerk in Mulgrave, and he was a very capable cat. With that, I've gone on a lot more than I normally do in a video. Share it around. And everything I said, I know or believe and say with all sincerity, but I leave you with the thought, there's better days ahead. I'm very confident. On Mulgrave, celebrating their 100th anniversary this year, will be around for decades to come as a town. You're very close to substantial good things happening in the vicinity of your town, and it'll help your town immeasurably. And I congratulate you all the good people of Mulgrave, on the 100th anniversary of their town. And many of you are the sons and daughters of the people that were instrumental in building the town. So I wish you again all the best. God bless. Well done, folks. Thank you. Bye for now.